My name's Tony Coder, and my title is Executive Director of the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation.
What inspired you to get into the mental health field?
So, my son, 7 years ago, had a suicide attempt, and trying to get him through that process. Knock on wood that he's still with us. But going through that process was a terrible disappointment in how hard it was to get my son care. And then talking to other families and hearing from other people how difficult it has been for just about every family. So when I was offered this position, um, it was um, it was something that I didn't know whether I wanted to take or not, because of that it's a pretty tough situation, and there was a lot of self blame for things, not quite frankly understanding that mental health it's a health issue and not a character issue, and so I was offered this and turned it down a couple times, and then finally my son said to me, "Dad, the trouble we had. Would you do this for me and kids like me?" And so that's why I do this, is for my son and the sons and daughters and moms and dads and aunts and uncles, and nephews and nieces all across the state of Ohio. Is we need better opportunity for care and easier ways to find that care and to receive that care.
So, what is the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation?
So we are a statewide organization, statewide nonprofit that focuses solely on suicide prevention. We work with everyone from employers to mental health providers to coroners. We have about 70 coalitions around the state that work on suicide prevention on a local level. We work with the governor's office and the state departments. First responders, African American led organizations. Suicide impacts everybody, so we provide resources, we provide trainings, we work with families on helping to find care, and then we work also a lot on advocacy at the State House on promoting 988 and other helpful things that we need to expand and make easier to have access to.
That brings me to a question about 988.
Uh-huh.
In the past 2 years since its existence, how has 988 helped your mission?
988 has been extremely helpful because from a personal standpoint, I could never remember the 10-digit number when I was giving a speech. It was always too long. And that was me trying to, literally having it written in front of me. I couldn't imagine trying to find or remember that number if you're in the middle of a mental health crisis, a 10-digit number. So having 988, has helped exponentially connect people to a place where they can receive advice and care and maybe just have someone to talk to. 988 gives I think we started somewhere around 10,000 calls a month, and now we're somewhere around 25,000 calls a month.
Wow.
So, and just that's just in the state of Ohio. So that's something that we're glad that people are feeling comfortable reaching out to. But it also points to the bigger problem that we have a lot of folks that are needing care, and we need to help them get to the care that they need.
I was in San Francisco a few weeks ago, and I was by the Golden Gate Bridge, and they had so many 988 signs there
Mm-hmm.
in that area. Uh, just, having those signs and number in public, I think helps a lot.
100%. And I know that you get it back when you get your little registration now. The state has put 988 on the envelopes for that. And talking about the Golden Gate Bridge, we know a guy. His name's Kevin Hines, who jumped from the Golden Gate Bridge, and he lived to tell his story, and his mission now is to bring suicide awareness, but also he's like, if one person, he said, if one person would have just, he said he was crying, one person would have asked him, what's going on? How are you doing? He says, I wouldn't have jumped. I just needed that one person. And I think that's what's really important about suicide prevention is we can all be that one person that might just say, how are you doing? And help save a person's life and be that shoulder to share all kind whatever struggles they're having or whatever things are on their mind. So we all have a role in suicide prevention.
And how important is it not only the person going through a tough time, but the families to have a support system?
It's crucially important, and that's where some things do get lost. Is we focus so much around the person who needs the care, that how do we, especially for kids, how do we make sure that the brothers and sisters are also they're not being ignored, they're not being while all the focus is going on the crisis at hand, how do we make sure that other family members are getting attention and getting the care, because it doesn't, as a father who, went through this attempt, it's incredibly stressful. And again, there's a lot of self-imposed guilt. So we're, feeling that we need to make sure that the families have access to the ability to talk about this and not be judged. Make sure that there's no stigma around this issue. So, your question is so smart because it is just we need to make sure that the families of folks who are struggling also receive the help and the support that they need.
I know with me, I live with bipolar disorder too,
Hmm.
and I have wife and kids, and it affects them as much. And people don't talk to them about it as much as me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's my son is also bipolar. So, and when he, is struggling, when he is, it's the high highs and the low lows, and the
Yeah.
medication is hard to figure out, as we know for folks. It's a pretty stressful time. And, I'm so glad that your wife and kids know how to support you, but
Yeah.
also I think in return you can help explain to them. It sounds like a pretty open conversation where you can say, "Hey, I'm just not, things are happening today.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so give me a little bit of grace." So really, really, that's really good to hear.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
Well, I said one of them is chocolate. So I have that on hand at all time. But getting out, taking a walk, I purposely live an hour away from where I work because I want to hear a comedy show on the way home. I want to hear some kind of silliness just to take my mind off of things. I go to a lot of funerals, which can be really, really, really heavy, and and also the ability to have open conversations. I've got friends that I know that I can call and I can say, "Hey, this is what happened today," and there's no judgment. There's no, nobody's saying to me, "Oh, just get over it." I think that's the worst thing you can say to
Yeah.
someone who struggles or who's having, a down day is just get over it, because that's not so easy to do, and it's almost insulting. So, yeah, I do a lot of things just to make sure that we try to let my mind get away from whatever it has gone through for the day.
What motivates you?
Um, the families. When um, I get to meet these folks and I get to see what suicide has done to their families, and you know what? Mental illness is an equal opportunity um, illness.
Yeah.
Whether I think a lot of times we have a stereotype that people are, with mental illness are homeless or whatever. But I work with folks who are CEOs of companies. I work with folks who are, I know that are really, really high in society. We work with people who are, um, you know, from all gamuts. And, if 1 in 5 people suffer from a mental illness, that means, take a look at walking down the street today or, taking a walk, whatever. And you think 1 in 5, these are people who function, who have jobs, who do their thing, who are married, who have kids, who, have a life. And we've got to, nobody in my time, and I'm older than you, I think, that cancer, we couldn't say the word cancer. My grandmother always said she had the C word when somebody had cancer. And now we can say it. Now we have celebrations of, breast cancer, Susan Komen walks, and some of those things where we celebrate people who have recovered. And we need to be in the same in the same respect, we need to celebrate people who are in recovery. Although my son doesn't like the word recovery, he likes the word remission, because mental illness can be up and down.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that if you're having a bad day or you slip back in depression that you've somehow broken your recovery. Instead, it's remission. So how do we celebrate remission, but also support people who, might be having some bouts with depression or bipolar or, schizoaffective disorder or whatever. So that's what I hope that we can do as an organization and as a state, is to break that stigma and celebrate, mental health wellness, and also support those who are struggling.
What would you say to anyone going through a tough time?
Um, well, I listen more than I say anything. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything that can be said to, I think it's more important for people to talk. When I go to funerals or when I talk to families or folks who are struggling, it's I want to be that person who they feel they can share their burdens with, and that I'm going to be a friend, no matter what you tell me. I'm going to be that person to listen, and then I'm going to be, hey, I will ask the question if I feel that it's needed. Are you thinking about killing yourself? Because I know that's a tough question to ask, but research shows over and over that one question, if someone is thinking about suicide, that one question can actually alleviate the burden and allow that person to say, you know what, I have been, or and then helping to find care for them, whether that is some self-help, whether that's trying to help them find a provider, or a mental health counselor or whatever. It's a lot more listening and then helping that person as well.
So where do you want to see the organization in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Um, I want us to be much better um, at stigma busting. I think stigma stops a lot of conversations and scares a lot of people. 80% of our suicides in the state of Ohio are middle-aged men. So we think of this as a teen issue, but men, because of, I think, the stigma, and we're supposed to be tough and John Wayne and all their stuff, and really it's an issue that impacts, again, 1 in 5. And if 80% of our suicides are men, then that means that men are struggling, and we need to break that stigma and not judge somebody for something that they can't control. Mental illness is not something that you know anybody wishes they had. It's
Right.
not something that, oh, I ate a I smoked a lot of cigarettes or whatever, and now I have lung cancer. I mean, it's a disease. We need to treat it like a health issue, not a character issue. So that's what I'd like to see in the next 3 to 5 years, and an improved mental health system where it's easier to find care for people and no one is embarrassed to get the care that they need.
How can people reach out and learn more?
So go to Ohio SPF .org. There's a lot of resources on there, including how to talk to somebody if you think might be suicidal. We've got support groups for folks. There's a listing of support groups for every. There's a listing of every support group for people who have lost someone to suicide. We've got lost teams. We've got youth resources. We've got African American resources, male resources, man therapy, older adults. We've got everything on that website. And then if you're struggling, call 988. I think that's the most important thing to do is to reach out immediately. The other, it's anonymous, so you can call anonymously. It's not going to show up on your phone bill. It's not going to, be reported anywhere. And it's the best opportunity for help. So I think those are the two ways to reach out. And then also, if you're out and about, and we table a lot of events, we'd love to meet you in person. We'd love to, shake a hand, give a hug, whatever it is you want to do. And our whole thing is about people and about our families. And we want to make sure that people know who we are and that we also know who the people are.